Ladies and gentlemen, 안녕하세요. I appreciate you all students attending this orientation. Welcome to Korea University. This is my pleasure to be here today and nice to meet you. My name is Jungmin No. I'm a psychologist and working as a counselor at the Center for Gender Equity of Korea University. Today, I'm here to introduce you our center, and I want you to know about our school regulation governing gender equity at Korea University. The president of any university in Korea has a legal obligation to prevent sexual and gender-based harassment, also discriminations on campus. All universities are obligated by law to carry out an annual prevention education on sexual and gender-based harassment, also discriminations on campus. This orientation aims to inform you how to deal with sexual and gender-based harassment, also discriminations on campus, and whom to contact. Here is today's order of orientation. First of all, I will tell you about Code of Conduct Gender Policy according to our school regulation. And then I will show you short video clips about the definition of sexual harassment and sexual violence to understand what they mean. After that, I will inform you about the Center for Gender Equity, where you can get appropriate support if you need. Korea University has a Code of Conduct Gender Policy. The code principle is Korea University does not discriminate against students, faculty, or staff based on sex in any of its programs or activities, including but not limited to educational programs, employment, and admission. Korea University also complies with the regulations that protect individuals from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation as well as on the basis of gender identity. All students, faculty, and staff at Korea University should ensure that women and men have equal rights and development opportunities at the university. Here are our Code of Conduct Gender Policy. The policy number 1. The interests of both genders must be optimally served at all levels and in all functions. This includes equal representation as well as due consideration of any specific gender interest in all working contexts. Policy number 2. Nobody may suffer negative consequences due to their sex, gender identity, or gender transition. Policy number 3. Each individual's dignity and integrity must be respected. Sexual and gender-based harassment and discrimination are violation of human dignity. Policy number 4. At the university, written and spoken language should express the equal treatment of women and men while maintaining precision and elegance. Why do we need such gender policy? Because Korea University wants to prevent sexual harassment and sexual violence, also discriminations on campus. Korea University has a set of regulations to ensure protection against sexual harassment and sexual violence. Here is the definition.
Harassment refers to any action that takes place in a work, employment, or academic setting, in which a person takes advantage of his or her status to use sexual words or actions that make the addressee feel disgusted or sexual humiliation. Punishing or causing disadvantages when the addressee refuses to follow such sexual actions or requests also falls under sexual harassment. Therefore, sexual harassment is not simply sexual mocking, but a sexual tormenting or insult that reflects the relevant people's relation of power. According to the Enforcement Decree of Act on Equal Employment and Support for Work-Family Reconciliation, sexual harassment can be categorized into physical sexual harassment, such as suddenly hugging someone from behind or touching certain body parts, verbal sexual harassment, such as lewd jokes or sexual metaphors concerning one's appearance, or pressuring someone to pour a drink during office dinners. Visual sexual harassment, such as displaying pornographic photographs or pictures, or purposefully exposing or touching certain body parts, and other sexual words and actions, which according to social norms cause disgust or sexual humiliation. Sexual violence is any action in which one takes advantage of the difference in strength to infringe upon another's sexual self-determination against the other's will. The concept encompasses not only rape, but also molestation and sexual harassment. From the viewpoint of sexual violence, not only physical violence or threats that demand sexual relations, but also sexual advances or attempts, psychological abuse, and verbal insults also apply as sexual violence. The law regulates only genital-oriented crimes accompanied by violence or threats, such as rape or indecent assault, as sexual violence crimes. But such sexual violence crimes, according to the law, and sexual violence must be carefully distinguished. Sexual violence must be understood to widely include both psychological and physical violence, because the kind of sexual violence that most frequently takes place within the university is not sexual violence crimes, but sexual harassment.
These regulations are based on the fundamental assumption that all students, faculty, and staff should treat each other with respect. Illegal shooting and hate speech on social media are not acceptable in our university community. This does not mean that interpersonal relations should be purely impersonal, distant, and formal. On the contrary, friendly and relaxed personal interaction also between women and men is and should be a normal part of everyday life at the university. Nevertheless, the regulations stipulate this definitely that sexual harassment and discrimination are prohibited and will not be tolerated. What shall we do if we feel sexually humiliated or offended with sexual charged behaviors? Maybe someone might think, should I just ignore it? Or am I too much sensitive or overreacting? Even someone could think like, what should I do if I get disadvantages or whatever? But I recommend we should first as follow. Clearly state how I feel and demand to stop the actions. But I know it's not easy to tell them off right away. Not only you, many of students, they have hard time to tell them off. So it's not easy to do it. But don't worry, in such case, you better discuss about it with the Center for Gender Equity. Sexual assault can happen to anyone. Anyone initiating any kind of sexual contact with another person must seek consent and not engage in sexual contact unless consent is given. According to our school regulation, consent means informed, freely given agreement, communicated by clearly understandable words or actions to participate in each form of sexual activity. Consent cannot be inferred from silence, passivity, or lack of active resistance. Importantly, intoxication is not an excuse for failure to obtain consent, and a person who is not able, whether by alcohol, drugs, or otherwise, is incapable of giving consent. Please remember, sex without consent is not sex, it's rape. Please ask your partner for permission. As the university sexual assault policy makes clear, sexual misconduct of any kind is inconsistent with the university's values and incompatible with the safe, healthy environment that the Korea University community expects. All members of this community share the responsibility for creating and maintaining an environment which promotes the safety and dignity of each individual. On college campuses, perpetrators are more likely to assert an acquaintance than a stranger. Being aware of your own safety and watching out for your friends are important steps you can take to reduce the risk of sexual assault. When we hear so bad things happen to someone like a rape, then people easily say the victim might have done something wrong and blame the victim. People think victim might have provided the cause of the incident. But I want to make sure now the perpetrator, not the survivor, is responsible for any incident of sexual assault. Nothing a survivor does or does not do is an excuse for sexual assault. Blaming the victim, that's secondary victimization for the afflicts the victim. We better support the victim, never blame. For more information on consent and incapacitation, also information about sexual assault prevention and resources for survivors of sexual assault are available from the Center for Gender Equity of Korea University. If a friend or person around you was the victim of sexual harassment, what would you do? When a friend, upper and or underclassmen, or students have experienced sexual harassment and is troubled by it, please do first support the victim psychologically. Second, do not try to solve the problem yourself by excessive actions. This kind of interruption could make the situation more worse. You better report it to or seek counsel from an on-campus professional counseling center like the Center for Gender Equity of Korea University. Korea University has an on-campus professional counseling center. We call it the Center for Gender Equity, CGE. CGE seeks to maintain an atmosphere free of sexual and gender-based harassment and discrimination while providing active support to students, faculty, and staff. The center is also committed to creating an atmosphere of trust and respect that is essential to a healthy work and academic environment. Now, I want to call special attention. You will want to have various experiences in Korea. You will also want to try special alcohol such as soju and makgeolli, something very special Korean traditional. But remember, unfamiliar alcohol can make you drunk and put you in a dangerous situation. You may have heard the Gangnam or Hongdae clubs are very much attractive. Okay, please enjoy yourself, but remember to save. Not much alcohol and always with trusted friends, not alone. Again, remember to be safe. Here, I show you now what we normally do. Our main activities are counseling and preventing education programs and solve the problems. Again, here I show you what we normally do. The CGE is committed to responding promptly and effectively when it learns of any form of possible discrimination based on sex or sexual orientation as well as gender identity. The CGE responds to reports of sexual harassment, including sexual violence, as part of its efforts to stop the harassment and prevent its recurrence of possible sex discrimination. An individual who has questions or concerns regarding possible discrimination based on sex should contact the CGE. All members of Korea University can visit the CGE to request information or advice, including whether certain conduct may violate the policy, seek informal resolution, or file a formal complaint. If you are a foreigner, Sometimes you may not be sure whether you have been sexually harassed or there has been a just simple misunderstanding due to cultural differences. In such cases as well, counseling and supports are always available at the CGE. In case we cannot give you direct help, then we could refer you right person and place. If you need more details or have questions about sexual and gender-based harassment or the discriminations, please call or visit the Center for Gender Equity anytime. If you want to contact us by internet, you can visit our website and leave a message. On this slide, you see in the middle there is a big circle. That's the menu. If you click in there, and you can leave your message. As soon as we check your message, we try to contact you. You can contact us when you simply need information about regulation, books, or any questions related with gender. And also you can contact us when you need counseling, if you have concerns, need help, or dealing after effects or whatever. And of course, you can contact us when you want to report a case, the complainant, him or herself, third parties, or representatives as well. Here is the map. It shows us the location of the CGE. In the small red square, that's the building, Dongwon Global Leadership Hall. The center is on the first floor of this building. It's very close to the main building. Here you see our phone number, email address, and website URL and the location again. What I want to mention for today is one thing, to remember my email ID. My email ID is very easy to keep. Helper is my email ID. The email address is helper@korea.ac.kr. If you need some information, or if you have questions, or if you need some help, please write me an email anytime. Well, it's all what I prepared for today. Thank you very much for your attention. 감사합니다.